So it really was about having a secure environment, a nurturing environment where they could find themselves, find their interests and develop them as young people ready for next steps.
G'day, I'm Debra Caldow. Welcome to the Red Giraffe Solutions Expanding Worlds podcast, where we aim to support you as you help your young person with additional needs plan for their future, a future where they're safe, secure, and live a rewarding and fulfilling life. From around the world, I share stories and I share solutions from people making this possible right now. I'm a parent of a young person with additional needs, so I understand the challenges. Many of the people I've interviewed on this podcast have already helped me design a better future for my daughter, and I hope that they might help you as well to imagine what's possible for your young person. This podcast is made possible by Red Giraffe Solutions, which is a project I'm proud to be part of, supporting families to build a better future for their children. We now have available at Red Giraffe Solutions an online course called Independent Cooking Made Easy. This is a new and unique approach we developed when we realised traditional cooking techniques and recipes were never going to enable our daughter to cook without some support or supervision. It's a safe, simple system that uses no more than 5 ingredients, has no weighing, cutting or chopping, and no lifting of heavy dishes. Each of the 16 recipes in the course includes a step-by-step video of our daughter making the meal, plus a visual recipe card. We developed this for our daughter to solve her challenges with cooking, and every recipe in the course she can and does genuinely cook for herself. You can find a link to the course in this episode's show notes. One of the main themes of this podcast is how to support our young people to get into paid work. But of course, before they get to that stage, there's the challenges of dealing with transition out of school. For many young people, that transition doesn't happen in the way it needs to, and they can end up becoming marginalised, not quite ready for work, and still needing support so that they can move forward. In this week's episode of the podcast, I'm talking to an organisation that does something about that, providing that bridge, if you like, for young people who find themselves at that crossroads in need of a new direction. My guest is Laura Vallone from Brighton Forward, which is an organisation that helps young people, I don't want to sound cliche, but helps them find themselves and find what they want to do with their lives, gives them a voice, if you like, and a place to think about the future that they want for themselves. So let's hear more from Laura about how Brighton Forward does that.
My name is Laura Vallone. I've been a teacher for 25 plus years. I have predominantly worked in specific learning difficulties in SEND for the past 20 years. And I was head of the sixth form for quite a few years, and I saw that a lot of our students were finishing at year 14 and going off to these bigger colleges, and they weren't coping and they were ending up in their bedrooms, and it was just horrid. I thought there's got to be a midway. So Brighton Forward is about having a smaller environment for students that are not ready for the next steps, for those that have not been able to access mainstream. Maybe we've got some guys that have been home tuitioned, we've got school refusers, we've got SEMH. So it really was about having a secure environment, a nurturing environment where they could find themselves, find their interests and develop them as young people ready for next steps.
Can we do a little bit of history then and talk about how you got started?
So when I got to the sixth form, I'd been teaching them 20 odd years. I always had a little bit, I'd love to do this independently. But I was quite happy plodding along until I sort of saw the impact it was having on the students that were leaving. And then actually 4 of us went off to Fox's Academy. And we spoke to the principal there. I think that seed grew. And actually, there were 4 of us, and at the time, one was in a position to move on, and they are doing very well. And then I thought, well, I also wanted to do this. It wasn't a difficult transition because a lot of the things that I've put in place now, I was already doing. It was just that little bit of extra work for the local authority, the hoops to jump and the reports to write and getting the foundation. But it wasn't a huge leap for me. So we started very small. We started in Worthing. The biggest hurdle was finding premises. Brighton Forward came about because I live that way. And, I had spent 12 years travelling to and from Shoreham, and I thought, no, enough. I want to work closer to home. But transpired that we just couldn't find the premises. and then found this fabulous premises in Worthing. And we just walked in, and my business partner is my life partner, and we walked in. He's got great ideas as well. We walked into this premises, and we could see the workspaces. We could see how it would look. I mean, obviously, it's very fluid and it's developing all the time, depending on the cohort we have. But because I'd already had the structure in the schools and teaching for so long, I knew what I wanted. So to set it up, it wasn't very difficult.
How does the program work? Do they find you? How does that sort of transition happen between their school that they're in or being at home?
So we attend transition evenings, we do as much PR work as we possibly can, we contact schools. So a lot of our students will come directly from the schools that know us, but there's also a lot that are referred from Senat. So these are the ones mainly that are referred from Senat are the ones that are having challenges in the current school, or they've been out of education for some time. So it's a bit of a mixture of how we actually get our young people in. Lots of parents come for visits because all our students are EHCP'd, so it's just sort of working with the parents and with Senat and schools.
So this is like that sort of step between school and potentially going to college and work?
Absolutely. So it's a 3-year programme. The first year is based on, we really focus on the young person developing their identity of themselves, along with life skills programme. And then on the second year, it's again building on that, and then we move into the work skills. And in the third year, it really is focusing on the work skills, because we have found that a lot of young people come in and they say, "Oh, I might go off and do this at college." And then by the time they're sort of mid-second year, they say, "No, actually, I want to go and work," because we use the language of work. And we have a lot of facilitators that come in from the world of work, and they interact with our young people, and we go and visit places. So their ideas shift as they go through the programme. We've also got functional maths and English, so those that want to and can sit in accreditation in functional maths and English.
What do you think is the biggest challenge in having a college like this?
The biggest challenge at the moment is that I think we are up against the bigger colleges, and I think sometimes it's felt that a lot of our young people can cope in the bigger colleges and they're being steered towards the bigger colleges. Well, it doesn't always work out. Sometimes it does, but it doesn't always. So I think that the biggest challenge is that our young people don't have the choice. And we're finding that really quite unnecessary. It should be. They should have exactly the same choice as their mainstream counterparts. But they're not having that choice. I mean, some of them do a fabulous job, but some of our students just do not cope in that bigger environment. They need a smaller environment.
When you come to that sort of policy, what policy changes should we be making to ensure that our young people get the same opportunities as everyone else?
I think it ultimately does come down to funding. And so there needs to be more funding, because it's wrong that they don't have the choice. I think the policies in general work, but I think it is ultimately funding.
That's not necessarily going to improve, is it? So what do we do long term then?
We have to move forward. We can't just say, okay, hands up, that's it. Absolutely not. We're the advocates for these young people that really are struggling, and you can't have a cohort that just do nothing. That's just unacceptable. So you've got to keep on pushing.
Do you think, though, that at some point people will realise that if you put the effort in now and the right support, then long term it costs the state a lot less?
You would absolutely hope. It's very strange because we've always worked very well. I think provisions have worked generally very well with local authority. It just seems something in the last year has shifted, and it is a little trickier. That's not to say that we don't still get referrals and we don't get the right students. We are the right place, the right fit for students that come to us. But it is harder, and parents are having to push harder. And when a young person doesn't know where they're going to be in September, for a mainstream child, that would be difficult. But for our guys who have all these anxieties as well, it's wrong.
You mentioned something really interesting just before. You talked about the language of work. Is this got to do with the language that we're using around transition and opportunity and the language of work? From my experience, and I'm talking as a parent, transition from school for someone with SEN isn't the same as it is from a mainstream. There isn't that sort of thinking about jobs and opportunities ahead. It's more about finding somewhere for them to go.
This is changing. The expectations are much higher. I mean, I come from this area, and everyone I know that comes from this SEND area. The expectations are extremely high, and we want our young people to be contributing individuals in their community, paid work. So I think there is a shift. There is some work to be done, but I think that generally there is a shift in the attitude.
Is that coming from the young people themselves as well?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I know many schools, and they're talking about enterprise, their work experience. From year 7, there's a big ethos, you will go and work. But the battle is, maybe there's a bit of a gap between school and college expectation and maybe home expectation, which can be a barrier. So we have to work very well with families, be very supportive of families, and spread our ideas and our enthusiasm and our desires for the young people to actually go out and work, paid, voluntary, whatever. I think part of a hurdle we have is that we, and all educators, I'm not just talking about Brighton Forward, you put a lot of time in and you support the students and you get them to the thinking of you will go out and contribute, you will have some purpose, but that's not necessarily supported outside of the environment. And to try and break down that way of thinking takes a lot longer than one would expect, because you think you get there, they'll leave us, and we hope, and we will support, and we will track. But actually, it is about letting go as a parent, isn't it, as well? It's difficult. We want to protect our children, but actually, they're teens, they're young adults, they should be going out and making the same mistakes as everybody else and learning from them.
It's amazing what the vision of one or two people can do and the impact that can have on other people's lives. I'm always in awe of the determination and tenacity it takes to create something like Brighton Forward. In next week's episode, I'm sharing some conversations I had with a number of young people at Brighton Forward. It's a look into their futures, if you like, and it reinforces that for Brighton Forward, all that matters really at the end of the day is helping young people work out what they want to achieve. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope that the stories and solutions shared on here help you as you support your young person to create their future. If you know anyone who would find the ideas useful, please share the podcast with them. To support the podcast, please consider finding out more about the Independent Cooking Made Easy online course. It's a safe, simple system that works. There are links to the course in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn at Debra Caldow. I'd love to have a conversation with you on any of the topics we all care about. Bye for now.